Okay, so I just wanted to basically go over what was said in my client inspiration, just to talk about different aspects that we went over, and then go through how where I go from here, and the sort of focus that I'm thinking of from this. So, the first question I asked him, um, is there a gap in the market for a product of this brief? And he said, yes, there's lots of demand for an ecological home. The challenge is whether the money spent on increasing the home's ability to be efficient will actually be efficient. So there's a lot of testing that needs to be gone into with that, to see if it would actually work. A lot of calculation. And it's a wonder, is it worth spending that much money on something that in 10 years' time you may not live there? So you may not actually reap the benefits of the solar panels or the solar thermal plan with it, all the aspects. You may not get to reap the financial benefits. He spoke about how in 2016 there was a government plan to change the way that all buildings were designed, and he said that was cut down on, that was scrapped altogether. So that means that for that product that I spoke about in feasibility, that there is a real place for this. However, and it was something that people were gearing up for, people were excited for, as it would save a lot of energy. But subcontractors and builders and the government thought that they might lose too much money from doing it. But it's still something that's required, he said. Yeah, he said it's a shame as everyone was gearing up for this new way of building, and it's a shame that the government have not made a requirement. Yeah, it's a shame that the government have not made this something that's compulsory, rather they've made it something that's a trend. So it's being developed in different little pods around Europe and America as well, but it's not compulsory, so that was a shame. My second question was, would having public involvement in the building process of the home be a good idea? So that's talking about I was thinking about an efficient, maybe an ecological process that helps the environment in the people sense, as well as the environment in the sense of the green surroundings and the carbon footprint. He said it's a good idea. He said there's a lot of training that's required, and I understand that. But I'm thinking it may be good to create functions that are actually able to be made partially by the user. So really easy, simple fittings. I was wondering if this is possible to reduce the amount of training required. And I was thinking from here that it could actually be used then after that to give jobs to the homeless, or people who are just deprived or need a job, unemployed. Give them jobs, allow them to earn, allow them to develop skills, and hopefully build up confidence in terms of their how they feel connected with their society. Yeah, he spoke about how there's a lack of skilled carpenters, there's a lack of skilled builders, there's a lack of people involved in the construction industry. And he spoke about the ratio between architecture salary and builder salary. That builders are actually getting much more than people expect, and sometimes more than architects, because there's a real need for that career. But he said it's a good idea. The challenge is finance, so helping people to live whilst working on the project. And after this I thought, okay, so we could potentially give people a place to live, build little separate, it's not huts, but little rooms with a bed, a shower, and a bathroom and a desk space. Really quite a cozy space that would be on site, and that would be easily built up. and that people could stay in whilst they're working on the site, whether they're no matter who they are. That was an idea that was running through my head, just to sort of build as a team as well. And it also means that people have security, but they may not be able to get the time off work to do this sort of thing. But it's an idea. The next question was, how can energy efficiency be increased? And he spoke about passive house methods, thick walls, 300 millimeters of insulation, making the build airtight, ventilating the build without sucking out all of the heat. So taking out the dry, dirty air, and actually sucking the heat from that back into the build, whilst cleaning the home. And he introduced a process called MVHR, which is good for the ventilation. And then asked him about cob, what is it like as a material, because I'd seen in books that cob is very renewable, it's cheap, and it would be good for an eco build because of its thermal properties. He agreed. He said it's a good insulator, it's natural, breathable, low carbon, and the only problem is that it weathers badly, meaning that it needs to be coated. And he mentioned that if you have an adaptation to make to your home to be able to cope with that cob wall, or to use that cob wall, is to have large overhangs across the roof to prevent liquid rain, water being able to attack the cob. And he spoke about the fact that cob has a very low embodied energy, so that's the energy needed to actually process it, and it's got a long life cycle. So if we manage to, with the right overhangs and the right coatings on the walls, this would be a good material to use. Then we went through a few sketches, and I asked him a few questions about certain joints. Together we worked through how we could manufacture this home potentially, just showing me a few key joints that I could develop and build upon as the project goes on. So first went through a joist joint, a foundation joint, showing how different parts of foundation can be connected in order to make it stronger overall. The layers of internal walls, so what it consists of. Spoke about pine wood, we spoke about fiberglass insulation, and then partition wall arrangements, spoke about that. Then he also started to, with sketches, explain in more detail what the passive house meant and the different features, so having long overhangs to protect the home. He spoke about how in the summer sun is higher, which means that you need a shade that blocks away that summer sun to allow the home to be cool, and how that when it's winter, all that sun can get past the shade and actually heat up the home. He spoke about arranging a building so that it'll be able to do this. He spoke about thermal mass in the concrete slabs, floor slabs, how when the winter sun hits the floor, the heat is stored in the home, in the mass of the home, and how in the morning it can be released back. Back into the home. That's a thermal mass property. And he spoke about integration, so integrating a build so that the users feel more comfortable in their home. So instead of having segregated layers of the home, actually leaving sections open, so that maybe having balcony sections so that people can see each other and sort of feel a relationship between them. without being in the same room, and it makes everything seem quite open. So from here, I have a better idea of where I'm going with this design, with my plan, and I know the sort of functions that I want to consider. I want to think about finance, because that's a big part of the building process. I want to think about how much energy these things generate, and gain some information that I would be able to give straight to a user. But I now have a few more basic ideas on how I will go about designing this home, what features I need to consider. So through this, I will consider these points.